Hello and welcome to the Wisconsin Drunken History Podcast. We are your hosts, Eric Sturgeon.
And I'm Russell Sorry.
This podcast is about all things Wisconsin, history, music, and culture.
While drinking a few brews.
Though we don't often use strong language, the jokes and the content is not intended for young audiences. Listener discretion is advised.
Before we begin the episode, we have to give a huge shout out to the Dangets from Madison, Wisconsin, for providing us with great bluegrass intro you hear at the beginning of every episode. The song Razzle was written by Jamie Lampkins, but is performed on behalf of Tom Wasselchuk and the Dangets. If you have a chance, check these guys out at dang-its.com for upcoming shows, music, or on how to book them for weddings, parties, and etc. Thank you for listening. Hello everyone, today's main story is about the Rhinelander's very own cryptid, the Hodag. Have you heard of the Hodag before we started this episode?
Yeah, man. So I watch a couple of episodes on YouTube about this thing, and I gotta tell you, man, it's pretty gnarly.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty scummy looking creature. It is somewhat of a folktale, cryptid, urban legend between lumberjacks during the late 1800s. With a population of almost 8,000, Rhinelander is set in north-central Wisconsin and is a must-stop for anyone up that way. The town was named after Frederick W. Rhinelander of New York, who was president of Milwaukee, Lakeshore, and Western Railroads at the time. It was originally named Pelican Waters by early settlers. The town offers all things Wisconsin, and I recommend going. So these are some of the main stores I've been to and main bars, etc. But these are the ones that are really stand out to me. You got the Rhinelander Brewing Company. You got the Hodag store. Huge shout out to the Hodag store. They helped us out a lot on this podcast. We got Dinky Diner, Tula's Cafe, the historic Davenport House, Pioneer Park Historical Complex, and Brown Street 151. I love coming up to this area, and we always check out new places when we go, but these were just the kind of notable ones, and I don't want to deter anyone. There's a ton of other businesses to check out in the area. We encourage local business, obviously, in this podcast, and it's the one thing we really want to strive for is getting people out there to go to these towns and actually witness the history.
Yeah, I mean, we honestly just encourage everybody to travel Wisconsin. Just get out and go see these towns for yourself. This is really just to give you a little backstory, a little bit of the history, and then throw out some suggestions of places and things to see when you're there.
Yeah, the outdoor scenery is beautiful. There's hiking trails, forest, and obviously the Wisconsin River runs right through town, so feel free to hop on a kayak and get in there. So the main story today is obviously about the cryptid, the Hodag. I could also give you a 3-hour lecture on this guy, but I'm not going to go into this. This is the main story. This is kind of like the middle of the story. There's a lot of other things that happen here, but this is kind of just the description, who's involved, etc. So the local central character to the story is Eugene Simeon Shepard. He was born in Green Bay, but most of his career he was in the lumber industry. He was known as a timber cruiser, which is someone who actually measures out the trees to find out the board feet, etc. He was also a real estate broker and a storyteller, and really enjoyed telling practical jokes, which is kind of how this whole thing started. He told stories of loggers, about Paul Bunyan, and also our main story we'll feature today. The tale begins in the year 1893 when a report comes into the local news. It had a head like a frog, grinning face of a giant elephant, thick short legs, set of huge claws, the back of a dinosaur, and long tail with spears at the end. Eugene Shepard, along with a land surveyor at the time, and additional backing by lumberjacks were the ones who sent this into the news. I mean, what do you think of that? It's pretty messed up.
I mean, I'll tell you what, if I heard that story or if I saw that thing firsthand, I would be terrified. I wouldn't know what, and especially, dude, up there in uncharted woods we're talking about, you don't know what is up there. And to be hearing of this from anyone at a pub or, your local watering hole, I mean, what do? You can't just tell the guy he's, full of it and just, pass it off. You kind of have to band together. You kind of got to get out there, torches, pickaxe.
Yeah, I mean, in this case, you're not technically crapping bricks. I mean, you're actually crapping a couple cedar logs.
Oh, yeah.
So after the initial reports came in on Eugene Shepard, he stumbled into a logging camp and relayed the tale to multiple camps. And this led to a search, which they all went out to actually try to capture the beast originally. It didn't end that way. They came out with heavy rifles, squirt guns of poison water. I honestly don't know what poison water is.
Yeah, what the hell's poison water?
I don't know what they use.
That's what we use. That's DEET. That's bug spray.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the Fleischies vodka I drink. It's
Oh, yeah, that too.
the
Yeah.
greasiest of liquors.
Really good point.
It was said that the battle with the beast was so intense. And here was the release that was actually reported to the media. It was the fiercest, strangest, and most frightening monster ever to set razor-sharp claws on Earth. It became extinct after its main food source, all white bulldogs. I don't even know where to begin on this. That's just messed up.
Did you just say white bulldogs?
White bulldogs were actually its main food source, according to Shepard, which became scarce in the area. It was roughly 7 foot long and estimated at 185 pounds. Its nostrils spouted smoke and flame and had a horrible odor. Shepard describes this as a combination of buzzard meat and skunk perfume.
Oof. How does he? Oh, okay. Skunk perfume.
Yeah, right. Tell J-Lo or somebody to release this scent. This sounds beautiful.
Yeah. Liz Claiborne's skunk tail.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely one of those type of deals. Okay, now this is the point where we got to start questioning things. Obviously today, we would understand this is a complete fabrication.
Yeah, this is the point where we have to do that.
But during this time period, they didn't know better. They didn't have Photoshop, and it actually looked pretty realistic. I mean, considering the time period. I mean, now you can go back and look at these old photographs, and the thing looks like a hunk of garbage. I mean, it's like somebody crafted this in their basement. I mean,
yeah, it's that couch from the first episode.
Okay, so here's what happened to the beast. The first beast. The locals had to kill the beast using dynamite, overkill if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where the famous photo comes from. Obviously, when you look at it initially, it's super cheesy. There's people surrounding it with guns and, the pitchfork, your standard hunt beast type photograph.
Yep.
But this was the end of the encounters as of, the first encounter. But in 1896, Shepard claimed to have seen another one of these beasts. And, no one else claimed to see these. And there were a ton of loggers in the woods. So obviously, this is another sign that, things aren't right. So he claimed to have seen the beast and was able to subdue it this time by using bear wrestlers.
Is that a person or a thing?
Yeah,
or
what is that? I mean, we grew up with WWF, Macho Man and Hulk, and I don't think these guys could take down a fucking bear.
No, there is literally no way that's. So this is a person, is what that's what we've deduced.
Yeah, these are dudes.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, for me, I don't think I could do it. If I saw a creature like this, I would automatically just run the other way.
Razor sharp claws, spiked back and tail, 185 pounds of muscle. I gotta be honest, I'm not looking to wrestle this thing. I'm looking to just get the hell out of Dodge.
Yeah, and the way they were able to subdue this beast was using chloroform at the end of a long pole.
I mean, again, is this from Hurley?
Right. This sounds like something super greasy.
The guys from Hurley moved slightly north to the Rhinelander area and brought their chloroform sticks.
And, they somehow managed to wrangle this creature and get into a corner in a small cave where they were able to overpower it and capture it. So now Shepard has one of these things in his possession. And in 1890s, what do you do in this time? Well, it's time to hit the fair circuit and snake oil it up.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get our covered wagon and we'll get the thing that we need to sell, which is chloroform sticks, and we'll show them exactly why they need to buy all these snake oils. And
So the Hodag was shown to the public for the first time at Oneida County Fair, charging guests a dime to see the beast, and was set to earn $500 in a weekend. For 1890s money, this is a ton of money. This guy probably had a lot of cash. He probably had some sweet whatever you can get at that time, some horses or oxen or whatever you can get.
Bear wrestlers.
Yeah, obviously you could hire some bear wrestlers, and Hulk Hogan didn't exist back then. He could have taken down one of these no problem. Oh yeah, brother, I'll take down a bear anytime you want. Woo! And during this time, obviously there's no social media, so in the 1890s this thing went viral, and going viral in the 1890s is insane.
That might be the very first account of anything going viral.
Right, and what could he have done to convince these people even more? And we're saying to ourselves, like, at this point, like, being from this time period, let's say we set ourselves back, is it real? Like, I really hope not. I don't want to see one of these things, or have them hurt my children. So people were really scared, and everyone was interested in seeing this thing. So the creature, before it went to the fair, was actually placed in a rundown shack house or barn. There's differing reports where it was actually located, which probably already made people scared. I mean, a rundown barn, nobody wants to go into a place like that.
Well, I mean, I think it's your tragic, or it's your classic horror story. It's this house, the weird old Johnson house, and it just looks all run down and decrepit, and it's scary. And then everybody tells their tales of the weird beast inside.
Yeah, exactly. So Shepard, here's how he kind of convinced people and scared them. Shepard would be well dressed in like a beautifully laid out suit, and he would disappear as the guests would wait for this abomination to come out. The crowd would then hear horror or like a growling sound, breaking, ripping, tearing sounds, and after a few minutes, Shepard would reappear again after a few minutes wearing the same suit but ripped and gnarled. I mean, he looked like a mess. And due to this setting, people never really stayed long enough to witness, if this is fake or not. And this went on for years.
Yeah. I mean, my account of that, looking back on it, he probably went downstairs. He gruffed one out on the toilet. He ripped his suit open every single time. And then then when he came upstairs, he was all sweaty and he looked like he had just, been attacked. But really, I mean, it was just, that's a rough number 2 he took. I mean, that's it.
That's a Taco Bell meal. I mean,
yeah.
That's just a normal Sunday for me.
Yeah, that's hot sauce.
So, due to this going viral, it started hitting the big time. And there became much more intrigue. And the government was actually preparing to send biologists and scientists who work for the Smithsonian Institute in Washington, D.C. to Rhinelander, Wisconsin. And after the mere announcement, Eugene Shepard, he was like, okay, I have to admit, I have to come clean about this. And was forced to admit everything. The Hodag that was on display was actually a carved stump draped in oxhide. Its horns and spikes were derived from oxen and cattle, and its movement, as stated before, was controlled by wires. And the growls were actually supplied by Shepard's son, who were actually hidden out of sight, who were just making some which, I mean, if you were in this time period, I would run. I'd be like, why would I want to see this beast? It's not worth it.
Yeah.
However, even though this creature is a hoax, the town still celebrates this amalgam animal. It has become the mascot of the town. The school sports team are even called the Hodags. There's a great country music festival named after this beast called the Hodag Country Music Festival. There are many renditions of the beast throughout town, which I recommend going to the town and trying to find them because they're all over. I mean, you can find them everywhere. And probably the most famous one, if you want to see it, is at the Chamber of Commerce, where tourists can stop and actually see the beast. It's huge. I mean, it's massive right in front. And we'll post some images so you can actually see what this beast looks like. It's really cool to check out. And if you actually go on the Rhinelander website, the slogan for the town is "The Home of the Hodag" appears right when you get on there. There is an official store in town called the Hodag Store, and it's a must-stop for anyone headed to this area. You can get all kinds of really cool swag, Wisconsin stuff, hats, drink Wisconsinly stuff, magnets. It's a really great stop. These guys are really cool to me. They answered all my questions and everything, and they helped us out with this episode specifically.
Yeah, definitely.
And he's actually become somewhat of a legendary creature, and he's actually featured in the new J.K. Rowling's movie. I don't know if anyone has seen the Fantastic Beasts and where they find them. Sturge, have you seen that?
No, I have not.
It's pretty good, and actually the Hodag appears in that, which is really cool for Wisconsin. He was also in Scooby-Doo in 2012 in the episode called The Hodag of Horror. And, you know, even after this thing has been proven a hoax, there are still accounts of people seeing this beast today. There's a few YouTube videos out there of someone claiming to have seen this thing in the woods. You know, I don't believe it. Obviously, it's a hoax. I really think there might have been something else involved, like maybe the LDS.
I mean, obviously.
Some acid. There was some hardcore stuff. Maybe it's shrooms, you know.
I'm telling you right now. I mean, obviously, you've got individuals who were under the influence of drugs or alcohol or something, and or it was just nighttime, poor vision, and somebody saw something. I don't discount the idea that they saw something, but I certainly don't believe that it's a horned beast with razor claws.
And, you know, that's where I'm at, too. Like, these guys obviously saw something. They're freaked out. They post these videos. You can check them out online. Go to YouTube and just search out the Hodag, and you'll find these guys.
Yeah, it's definitely the nice thing is the city just has completely rallied around that history, and that it's just a part of their culture now. Like you said, the city has completely embraced the Hodag. So visit Rhinelander, and you'll see for yourself just how deep this thing is in the culture.
Yeah, and that'll conclude our main story for the day. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with you. Everyone, and welcome back. We're now at our segment called How Scotty Are You? This segment is basically some questions we ask where we try to determine how much of a Wisconsin person you are. And the last episode, Sturgeon, Eric, he interviewed me and asked me a few questions, and now it's my turn.
Here we go. I'm ready.
All right. So the first question I have for you, have you ever eaten a squeaky cheese curd?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think it's possible to live in Wisconsin for as long as we have without. And honestly, the tourists have all pretty much had squeaky cheese. I mean, even the furniture store Penny Mustard will do squeaky cheese days at their, to get people excited about coming shopping for furniture.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice. Like when you get it really fresh, so the term squeak actually comes from like rubbing against your teeth. It actually makes a squeaking sound.
Sure does. When you eat it, you should definitely have the internal squeak. You got it.
All right. So next question I have for you is, do you know what a bubbler is?
Absolutely, yeah. Do not Google the term bubbler. You'll probably come up with potential drug paraphernalia searches and whatever, so it could get you in trouble. However, bubbler, I don't necessarily use the term every time. It really depends on who I'm talking to, so I definitely have shied away from that terminology to everyone, but I would say yes.
Yeah, a little side note to that. If you ever want to look up the bubbler history, obviously, like Sturgeon said, do not look up bubbler and Google image it. Check out Kohler history, because actually the term bubbler comes from the Kohler Company, and we'll probably do an episode on this kind of to discuss it further, but check it out. It's really interesting.
Awesome.
Next question. Have you ever woke up in the morning and had a Bloody Mary?
Definitely. I mean, we kind of touched on it a little bit in the first episode, but yeah, absolutely. It is a staple to either curing hangovers, which some believe it does. But honestly, to me, it's the perfect partner to any breakfast. I mean, you get up early in the morning, you make yourself some eggs, bacon, sausage, pancakes, Eggo waffles, whatever you want to do. the thing that you definitely have to have pairing with that is the perfect Bloody Mary, which, honestly, the ingredients vary, but I think the perfect thing you got to do for any Bloody Mary is include the pickle and olive juice into the concoction a little bit.
Oh, definitely. Have you ever put Slim Jims in yours?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, you got to get some beef jerky, some nice Wisconsin jerky even.
Some
it tastes
kind
so
of
good.
Exactly. Some kind of jerky, some kind of beef stick or whatever. That has to be in there.
All right, next question. Have you ever wore a flannel to work?
Yeah, definitely. At my current place of business, we have a thing that that has gotten pretty popular now, but we call it Flannel Friday. So it doesn't generally carry into the summer months, but during the fall and winter, Flannel Friday, it's a real thing. It's a real deal.
Yeah, and so my last question for you, obviously, I don't want to ask you the same questions that I was asked because we kind of answered them,
Side by side.
Yeah, but the last one I got for you, have you ever made beer brats?
Yeah, I think so you can go the cheap way and you can buy just a package of beer brats, but it's kind of a routine now of mine to throw those on the stovetop first. I poke each end just a little bit to break the casing. I throw in like a half a stick of butter, and I put in, I cut up an onion into little slices. And then I throw in about 3 to 4 full beers for 5 brats, like a normal package of brats. And I usually just boil those until until you pick them out with a tong and you shake them and they don't have that same like loose raw sausage shake to them.
And since this is the last question, what kind of beer do you recommend? I always use a cheap beer like a Pabst or a Miller Lite. What about you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I typically go the like Miller Lite route. Sometimes I'll go to like the PBR. Honestly, it's whatever I have in my refrigerator that's the oldest beer in there.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously don't want to use, a craft beer that's costing you $10 for a 6-pack.
Yeah.
Those are kind of more adventurous beers, but anything you can get like a 12-pack for reasonable, that's kind of what we go with as well.
Yeah, Hamm's is another great selection if you do have to just buy beer in order to do this. If you don't have beer sitting in the refrigerator right now, Hamm's is a good one to go ahead and get. Plus, Milwaukee's Best Light. So Beast Light is what most of us know it as. That is a perfect beer to make beer brats on your own.
Oh, definitely. And, one other cheap beer I'd recommend is Red Dog.
Oh, yeah.
It used to be kind of the hot seller for Miller back in the 90s. They had like great actresses and, models. Cindy Crawford used to be in the things. But now you can get a whole cube for literally $9.99. That's a 36-pack of beer for $9.99.
Yeah. Now the only guy that's in the commercials are my neighbor, Doug. His shirt doesn't go all the way down to his pants. So I'll just leave you with that.
Yeah, and that'll conclude our questions for today.
All right. Now on to our next segment called How Many Locos You At? This is a segment where we read a news story and we try to guess how many Four Locos this person had to drink to get to this level. For example, if the person had 2 cans of Four Loko, they are at an 8 Loco total. All right, Russ, why don't you go ahead and give us this story here?
Yeah, so our tale comes to us today from Waukesha, Wisconsin on February 25th of 2020, actually this year, where a Waukesha resident pulled up a Packers chair next to a dead opossum while repeatedly shouting the words "repent" at the animal, and then threw goldfish snacks, windshield wiper fluid onto the dead animal, which caused 2 people to call the local authorities to come and check out the scene. Now, this story, we're not, our podcast, we're not going to get religious or
political.
Yeah, we're not going to jump into that territory, and we weren't trying to do it with this article, but if you had a guess, how many locals do you think it would take to get to this level?
Honestly, I feel like this could be one can. So I think somebody could be just at four loco in order to get to this point.
So was this more of like a mentally disturbed Four Loko?
Yeah, I feel like there were some underlying issues, that existed before this. The four loco just happened to assist and possibly even, make it worse.
Yeah, I mean, maybe the Four Loko just gave her a little extra spiritual energy.
Liquid courage.
Exactly.
Let her I don't know, psychological issues show.
But it was a messed up story, and it kind of took the headlines for a while here in Wisconsin. It's kind of a weird one, and we just wanted to cover it. But that'll do it for today's How Many Locos You At segment, and we're going to move on now. Hello, everyone, and we're back. This is the music segment. We have a huge shout-out, so we're going to do our local business shout-out right now. We honestly owe the Hodag store huge credit here. They gave us this music. It's a must-stop if you're in Rhinelander. They have Wisconsin memorabilia. They have Hodag everything you can think of. And they gave us this really cool song. The guy's name is Kerry Exotic. I Saw a Tiger, which is a parody of a show that's been recently kind of taken the headlines called Tiger King. Have you seen that show?
Yeah, so I've only actually seen maybe 3 episodes of it. It got a little wild for me, man.
Yeah, it's completely nuts. I mean, I can't believe people actually live this way. I never really would have imagined it, which is probably why it makes it such a great documentary, because you don't get to see the side of people normally.
Yeah, it really goes into areas that, I mean, you see it in movies, but you don't, I mean, you think that that's completely scripted. Now you see it and it's like, you realize that this is real. These are these people's firsthand accounts of what happened at these exotic animal parks, and it is just off the deep end, man.
Yeah, you kind of love every character you meet. I mean, they all have their flaws and they all have their really good qualities that we can kind of relate to, and I think it's what makes it such a success, especially now during COVID when we're all stuck inside. It's like we can relate to these people, but we also see the dark side of them.
Yeah, it's unique. Let's call it that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where we'll leave it. And so our special guest is actually Kerry Exotic. He actually works up in Rhinelander, and I believe he works at the Pioneer Park. But he wrote a song which is kind of like a parody of I Saw a Tiger. And without further ado, here's Kerry Exotic, I Saw a Hodag.
Tell all the hunters to lay down their guns. Tell them that the whole day needs a little bit of love. Let them roam the forest, let them climb the trees. Stand back and marvel, what a beautiful beast. I saw a whole day, now I understand. I saw a whole day, the Hodag's on a man. I can give them a home, safe and warm. But the law wants to ban me. Can you tell me who's wrong? Every time they move, every time they breathe, I can feel the power, yes, I can feel the heat. 'Cause I saw a whole day, and now I understand. I saw a whole day, a whole day's on man. Time is a ticking, soon they'll all be gone. Better take a picture if you ever see one. Call it Armageddon, such a painful scene. Tried to kill all the Hodags in 1893. 'Cause I saw a Hodag, and now I understand. I saw a Hodag,
Wow. That was awesome. Again, that was Kerry Exotic. I saw Hodag. Awesome. Thank you so much for sending that in. And thank you so much for your assistance with this podcast as well. That brings us to our next segment, Beer Review. This segment, again, is devoted to local Wisconsin beers. And throughout this episode, you may have actually heard a few beers being cracked open. We like to drink and loosen up, but also we like to support our local breweries. We have both made different batches of homebrew and taking our own stab at beer making. However, we're not beer snobs, and we're not going to go crazy and dive way too deep into the evaluation of this thing. We're just going to take the few sips and give you our opinion. We kind of think that maybe you're the type of person that just drinks the Coors or Miller Lite every once in a while, and maybe you want to explore. Well, this is your opportunity to maybe find a beer that you think might be suitable to try if it sounds like it might be appealing to you. So without further ado, Russ, why don't you tell us about our beer of choice today?
Yeah, so we wanted to keep this episode kind of all things Rhinelander. So today we are actually drinking the Rhinelander export beer, specifically the Shorties. At 5% ABV, this little lager is pretty tasty. And the short size, they're probably about 5 inches tall. And they're great for loading up in your tackle box. You can fit a whole bunch of them in there because they're so tiny.
Yeah.
It's really nice. And it is technically a Rhinelander Brewing Company original recipe. It was being brewed for quite some time by Minhas Brewery in Monroe, Wisconsin, which is actually a really neat tour. I don't suggest doing all three because they actually have a winery, a distillery, and a brewery tour.
Yeah.
And I saw disastrous results from somebody that went on all three. And they have, how they have like cans stacked, and you know how they neatly stack them? So this woman came off the wine and distillery tour, and she came on the beer tour with us. And she literally like fell into the entire pyramid of cans. I mean, like she was gone.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, Minhas is very generous with their tasting policies, both before and after the tour. So if you're looking to get your money's worth, it is an awesome tour in that regard. But like my co-host here, Russ, said, do not try to attempt to do all three and think that you're going to make it out alive and without, possibly making yourself look like an idiot.
Yeah, in Monroe's, it's a pretty small town, so finding a place to stay there is not the easiest thing to do. If you do get a chance to go to Monroe, I recommend checking out all the cheese places out there. And there's a lot of smaller breweries that have opened up in the area, and I really recommend going there and checking it out.
Yeah, definitely worth it.
Worthwhile. And so the beer in 2018, plans were made, and now it's currently being brewed in actually Rhinelander, Wisconsin, which is really awesome.
Yeah.
It's now open, and I have yet to check this place out. I don't know if you've been there or not.
No, not yet.
But I'm definitely making plans this year to go check it out. But overall, what did you think of the beer?
Yeah, it's actually really refreshing. As the label says here, it is refreshing as Wisconsin's North Woods. As I don't know exactly how refreshing the North Woods is, in a taste aspect. Physically, though, I know that when I head to the North Woods, I feel a little bit disconnected from the crazy, just feels of normal everyday life. So if I were to try to kind of compare that into a taste, I think this nails it. I think this is that refreshing example of how I feel when I physically go to the North Woods.
Yeah, I mean, I could see myself sitting in front of a waterfall somewhere up there and just sipping on this stuff. It's really light, it goes down really smooth, and I highly recommend you check it out and give it a taste and let us know what you think.
Yeah. Now, really quick, I wanted to ask you about the Hodag and what was his name again? Shepard?
Eugene Shepard?
Eugene Shepard. Now, that guy... How many loco you think he was at when he concocted this story of the Hodag?
The guy was just kind of eccentric. He was a showman. He probably was at a no loco. People would see him kind of walking around town. He had a cart, which we'll post on our social media, where it actually was led by a moose. Like, he's that eccentric of a person. So it might have been a no loco, maybe a 4 loco to give him a little energy to get through town and get a little wild, you know?
Yeah, so you're saying this guy was just a straight up goofball.
Yeah, he was a goofball prankster, and
Very good.
He was a professional too. But we'll post some pictures. You can kind of see him. He has like a total 1800s sweet mustache, like the total like whisper, like yeah, my name is Eugene Shepard, like that 1800s look. But he's, it's a really cool history. Like, I think it's funny how he like pranked all these people in the entire United States. I mean, it was pretty neat.
Yeah, that was one of the early all-time gotchas. All right, that concludes this episode of Wisconsin Drunken History Podcast.
If you enjoyed this vulgar display of Wisconsin, we recommend you subscribe via SoundCloud, Apple Podcast, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn.
Also, leave us a review on any one of those above-mentioned sites, and we can read one at the end of every show. Follow us on social media, and feel free to reach out, especially if there is a piece of history or weird news you'd love us to share or research, as well as highlight some local artists or music. Our website is projectcapestudio.com.
I'd also like to thank my friend and past coworker Steph Skiback for providing us with awesome podcast cover art, as well as the Dangits for intro and outro music, and all of you for listening. As always,
Watch out for deer on the way home.